Johnson. My name's Amanda Moody. I am the manager for economic development here at CCT. I've been with CCT for about 5 years now, since the very beginning of 2007, and my involvement has always been with industry relations and economic development. So I'm going to talk a little bit about that today, about what our past accomplishments and efforts have been and how they've shaped what it is now and where we're going in the future. So what is the purpose of economic development here at CCT? Well, it's the liaison between academia, government, and industry. And so when there's coordinated efforts between these three very different entities, I represent CCT's best interests and ultimately LSU's best interests in those efforts. Workforce development simply means that we coordinate what industry standards and needs are to the graduates that we're producing. We provide access to technology and capital and connect research and infrastructure to industry. This is through partnerships and collaborations, mostly through research agreements. We also serve as a tool to recruit new investments from outside the state, city, and region. We do this because when organizations are going after a prospect, they usually bring them to us, wanting us to kind of give them the dog and pony show of what we do and what our cool research is and what we can offer to industry that comes in. And so they use us a lot to try to recruit these new prospects to come to Baton Rouge. And then we also just promote CCT in Baton Rouge as being a leader in computation, technology, and education. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the history. The first kind of significant thing that happened for this economic development initiative is in 2002, Louisiana became the first state to pass entertainment tax incentives. You probably by now know that Louisiana has some of the most competitive tax incentives in the country, but originally they were only devoted to entertainment and motion pictures. They didn't expand the digital media and software like they do now. What this did is it signified a major shift in the state's economic development initiatives. Suddenly they were focused on entertainment and digital media. It wasn't just about the petroleum chemical industry anymore. So this leads me to what happens in 2003 when the funding for the Lab for Creative Arts and Technology is established. This Lab for Digital Innovation is directed by one of my favorite people, Dr. Stephen Beck, and it was really the birth of economic development at CCT. Around this time, Stacy Simmons was hired, and a lot of her efforts were focused on industry relations and building a digital media ecosystem that I'll talk about a little bit later on. But this is really where it all kind of began and what everything. And it's important to know that the main two digital media efforts out of the center kind of spawned from this Lab for Creative Arts and Technology, and that's the Red Stick Festival and the Avatar program. So in 2005, we had our first Red Stick International Animation Festival. We've heard about this a lot throughout the day-to-day, but what you may not understand is that this has a lot of significant impact on the economic growth around here. For one, it presents Baton Rouge as a fun place to live and to do business, so it gives Baton Rouge that cool factor. I mean, most people when they hear about Baton Rouge, they don't think of it as a really cool place to live like Austin or somewhere like that. They just kind of think that we all live in a swamp with the bayou in our backyard. So this kind of gives us that little bit of cool factor. It really established our credibility with major companies and also contributes to the overall attraction of the area to young professionals. It catalyzes opportunity for entrepreneurship, and it showcases the local, regional talent and also brings in talent from outside the area as well. And here's other ways that it contributes to economic development. It improves our visibility and credibility as a global competitor, as a city, and as an area, and more importantly, as a university. It contributes to our professional reputation, and it really has been key in developing partnerships and collaborations with companies and key individuals in the industry. One of those companies that I want to highlight is Animaction Inc. They have been critical to our outreach programs. It's a company out of LA. They develop their own software to teach animation, and so for the past 6 years they've come for a week, sometimes in the spring, mostly during the summer, and they've taught animation to our local teachers and students, and then those groups take it back to their schools and continue to teach animation at their schools. So it's really changed the way we teach art here locally. Before, there would have been no type of animation within our schools. And then this is a nice slide given by Karen, and this shows some of the important relationships that we've developed over the last 6 years with the speakers. I think this is, that is Stuart Samita. If you've ever been around the festival, you have probably heard his name. He is a dear friend of the festival. He is an expert in animal locomotion, so he acts as a consultant for companies like DreamWorks, Pixar, Disney, and he's responsible for some of the characters that you would probably recognize, like Bolt, and also the dragons and How to Train Your Dragon. He teaches them how to make them move realistically.
With the rat and Ratatouille.
Yeah, and he did do the rat and Ratatouille. And then Andreas Deha, what is from Walt Disney Animation Studios. He is also a great friend of the festival. He received our Lifetime Achievement Award. What's interesting about him is he is one of the only ones left who's allowed to draw Mickey Mouse. There's hardly anyone who they actually allow to draw Mickey, and he is the one. And he's also responsible for a lot of the Disney villains like Scar and Gaston from Beauty and the Beast and Jafar from Aladdin. So just some really neat connections that we've made through the festival. So in 2006, the Baton Rouge Area Digital Industries Consortium was established, and we call it Braddock for short. This was a partnership between the Baton Rouge Area Chamber, LSU, which was represented by CCT and ORED, the East Baton Rouge Parish Mayor's Office, the Louisiana Department of Economic Development, and the Baton Rouge Area Foundation. And Stacy Simmons was the executive director of this consortium, and when I was hired on in 2007, it was to work with Stacy on this Braddock initiative. So what Braddock was a new economic development engine focused on digital arts and technology. Its primary mission was to build a digital media corridor and sector here in Louisiana, and they tried to do this by branding Baton Rouge as a digital industries destination. Also, to try to attract digital media companies to come to the Baton Rouge area and develop a pipeline for entrepreneurs, and then, of course, support the workforce. In 2007, I think it was November or October of 2007, we held an event called the Digital Media Education Forum. And most of you probably never knew this event ever happened, but it was really significant to both the Avatar program and to our EA relationship. So it's significant to the Avatar program because what we did was we invited 30 key industry leaders to come here to LSU and to have panel discussions about digital media, what type of curriculum we would provide to produce a workforce for this industry. And so it was really there that we got the first formal feedback of what industry standards and needs were and what we needed to do in order to produce a workforce for it. And then a lot of people don't realize that this is where the EA relationship began. Philip Holt, who was the president of EA Tiburon at the time, attended this event, and it was here that he and Stacy started their professional relationship, and it was through that even the discussions of EA having a presence here even began. So if it wasn't for him kind of attending this event, it may not have ever have happened. And then in 2008, the Avatar program began. this was important. Steve talked about this in detail before, but what this means to economic development is that the city and the state saw Avatar as the key in workforce development for this industry. A workforce, I can't stress it enough, is vital to the success of any industry. And that's really what we have best to offer. And it's even more critical when they have prospects like EA trying to relocate them to Baton Rouge or to Louisiana, and that's the main thing that they're interested in. I mean, they're interested in the tax incentives, they're interested in the infrastructure, but the main thing they're interested in is workforce. And if they know that they don't have a workforce, then it's a non-starter. So Avatar was seen as the solution for the lack of talent that was here in Baton Rouge and more importantly Louisiana in this digital media industry. So recently we've been working on an Avatar Industry Advisory Board. And the purpose of this board is to build industry engagement. Basically, we want the industry to continue to be engaged with what we're doing, to continue to give us feedback about what industry standards are and what the needs are, because it changes so rapidly, and for us to continuously try to keep the curriculum on the cutting edge. It's created a really unique avenue for us to build relationships and partners with some people that we may not have otherwise have built them with, and there's some on the slide just to name a few. And so 2008 was kind of a big year for us. So we have the creation of the Avatar program, and now we have Electronic Arts announcing that they're going to have operations here in Baton Rouge. So they announced that they were going to have the North American Test Center here. And the North American Test Center is dedicated towards their quality assurance. And probably by now you've heard everything about EA being here, but this was a really big score for Louisiana. It was big because, number one, it really put us on the map as being a digital media hub. We're the first state to get any type of facility of this kind from EA, and so that immediately made people start to question what is going on in Baton Rouge where EA would put operations here. What's happening? What is this? And so it immediately brought awareness to this, this industry that we have that's thriving and growing here. And then ultimately, it created 600 jobs for the state, which in the economy and the way it is now is huge. So for CCT in particular, it solidified our partnership with EA. It also, in part of the agreement between LSU, EA, and the state, we now get the Digital Media Center, which is where CCT and EA will both be housed, which is very exciting. But what was even more significant is how Chancellor Martin stated it, is that it's proof that LSU is a key player in the state's economic development future, in their initiatives. We really play a role in what they're looking to do. So in the beginning of 2009, this is where a lot of people kind of get confused with what happened with Braddock versus economic development at CCT. So in the beginning of 2009, Braddock was restructured. So that means that Braddock and its operations then fell under the BRAC umbrella. The Baton Rouge Area Chamber was responsible for the recruitment for everything that Braddock did. Stacy and I then fell 100% to CCT, and so it kind of created this new economic development initiative here at CCT because our efforts were totally focused on CCT and the university and not so much going out recruiting for the city. Another important thing to note in 2009 is that the tax incentives were expanded here. I said before how originally they were only focused on entertainment and motion pictures. Here they were actually expanded to digital media and software. So what that did is it made Louisiana very competitive. We have the strongest tax incentives in the nation right now, and we are a huge draw for digital media companies now because of these tax incentives. And I'm not going to talk about that. So fast fast forward to 2011. It's been a very busy, exciting year for us here. In June of this year, CCT was contacted by Patrick Mulhern of Raleigh Studios, that's located at the Celtic Media Center, and he had interest in recruiting a visual effects company to come to Baton Rouge, but more specifically the Celtic Center. And his concern is that Louisiana is losing major film productions and post-production dollars to other cities. And there's 3 stages of filming a motion picture. You have the pre-production, you have the actual filming on set, and then you have the post-production, which is visual effects, the editing, and the sound. And so the concern is that these major productions will come to Louisiana, they'll film on location, and then they'll leave and take the post-production to other cities. Or they'll bypass Louisiana altogether to go to cities that have all the resources that they need available. So it's very important to try to get post-production facilities established here. So this was really the first indication that CCT got that possibly we could offer some of our capabilities to service this industry. And Ravi will come up a little bit later on and talk about that more in depth. So basically, in the future, we really hope that we can be a catalyst for the projected growth of the digital media industry. It's really positioned for staggering growth, and we have the opportunity here to really boost that growth. So other than that, I'm not sure. I mean, other than that, it's just details. So, yeah.